Hello guys, this is your friend Naruto Nexus 2.0 and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is What If Naruto Got Harem with Hinata, Anko and Kurenai Part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. Sasuke. Falling to her knees she watches as the mist dissipates and a raven-haired boy's form falls, inside a group of floating mirrors. No, no. No, no. Starting slow the sobs come full force as she watches the boy die. Looking over she sees her sensei fighting the demon of the mist. Her third teammate, a simple red-haired boy, was unconscious long ago. She watched as time seemed to slow before the mirrors started to shatter and fall to the concrete. TCH, arrogant for such a weakling, praising of the Uchiha clan like they ruled the world. Failure, you have nothing precious to you, you never had a chance. A boy emerged from a lone mirror taking in the scene of the outside world after being enclosed within the dome. As if just regaining his hearing, a slow but steady sound came to his ears, bird chirping. He couldn't pinpoint the sound, until he looked over at a glowing light. From the hand of the copy ninja, Kakashi Hatake, a glowing, sparking orb encased his right hand. Leaning to the left slightly, Kakashi takes off, intent on plunging his hand through the demon of the mist once and for all. Just arriving to the scene before them, a raven-haired beauty, a dog nin, a hyuga, and a bug nin, all stood witness to the sight. Two comrades down, one useless, and one on the verge of victory. Looking down, the beauty nodded to the bug user and he nodded back, running to the falling mirrors. The rest of them stood by the useless nin and took up guard around an old-looking man. Watching from the sides was an unusual beast, in the land of waves at the very least. It took the color of white with black streaks, zebra stripes, through its fur. Eyes a deep amethyst, slitted and mixed with red and blue hues. Large enough to give even the demon of the mist a scare, and as agile as the hyuga. The feline watched, noticing the band worn on the 8 nin protecting the old man. Never wanted to see that again, but I guess it's now or never, had to sometime, nay. Growling, the feline noticed the boy that came out of the mirrors start to move, just as the nin with the ball of lightning took off. No, can't have that now, can we, dear child? Watching from the sides in case she needed to help, the raven beauty was on guard, thinking over every possibility that could take place. What happened next froze everyone except the copy nin in motion, too intent on his kill. The corner of her eye just caught the sight, and out of reflex she got into a defensive stance, all for nothing as she was shocked beyond belief. The feline pounces, landing on its target, flinging the ice user to the concrete, breaking his porcelain mask. In one quick motion, as the boy was stunned and couldn't believe his eyes, the feline tore through his throat. Blood seems to spray everywhere, but oddly the feline's fur never got stained by the crimson liquid. Making the end come quick, the feline decided to pull back its paw and slam its claw into and through the boy's chest cavity, effectively killing him before he could feel any pain, still too stunned to feel the pain in his neck. Growling maliciously, the feline watches as a hook catches on the side of the bridge they were on. Uncaring about the crowd watching, the feline charges and cuts the rope attached to the hook, hearing a number of screams jostled from below. Looking over the edge and seeing a sight that would, at least the feline thought, terrify the nin on the bridge, it chose an action that shell-shocked the nin watching it. Goodbye, Zabuza, demon of the mist, you were a worthy opponent, but this is your end. Slowly Kakashi took his bloody hand out of Zabuza's chest, watching in amazement as he fell coughing up blood but still had life in him. Why? Yes, I'm glad for, coughing a rough bout, blood spatters all over his face, seeping through his mask. For an honorable defeat by someone, such as yourself. Looking to the side, he sees his apprentice dead on the concrete. Go. Goodbye, Haku. I want. See you where. I'll be going. After another blood-gurgling cough he finally lets death take him, one thought going through his head, Haku, you were more than I could ask for, a great genuine soul. I'm sorry I corrupted you. Saying a quick prayer, Kakashi finally noticed the scene before him. A beautiful white tiger had taken point on the bridge. Where it came from he couldn't tell. Kurenai sensei. Seeing she got the raven beauty's attention, she continued. That animal, it's rare in the wilderness, and it's not from around here, is it? It seems like it's human somehow. It even has chakra, as if it was trained. Nodding, Kurenai tried to reply while turning back to the tiger. No, I've never seen a live one before. It's a majestic and beautiful sight, isn't it? I'm now sure where it came from, but I'm glad it helped us. We can repay it somehow, we should. Nodding, the Hyuga just watched the beast as it cut a rope that came up from below the bridge. Watching the waters below, the tiger did something no one could believe. It jumped the hundreds and hundreds of feet down to whatever may lay below. It took the dive, and somehow made it look majestic even for a suicide jump. Seeing the looks on the bandits' faces below was all but priceless to the feline. Fear, unbridled fear, and all from a simple animal, terrifying as it may be. Landing with all the grave of a feline jumping hundreds of feet, landing with chakra, it looked up at the bandits, and just seemed to grin. Everyone knows animals can't grin. Kurenai blinked, she looked around, and so did everyone else. No one seemed to move, just stare, blink, stare and blank, nothing. No one could grasp what just happened. Out of nowhere came a melody, which became a fast beat after only a few seconds. It was amazingly loud to come out of nowhere. I know you'll be there to see the tables turning. Wake up tomorrow and watch the bridges burning. I can see it in your eyes. I can feel it in my mind. I don't care if you realize what you see in my eyes. A resounding explosion roared through the area, everyone wincing at the sound. I'm over me being under you. I'm breaking free and I'm breaking though. I've overcome all, I'm underneath. I can finally stand. I can finally breathe. Another explosion came this time, along with a shout that slightly resembled, that was my new coat, you shitstain. Remember when we first had the thought of living? A perfect picture. But I did all the giving. Gave up my passions. To try to make you happy. The joke is over. And I'll do all the laughing. I can see it in your eyes. I can feel it in my mind. I don't care if you realize what you see in my eyes. I'm over me being under you. I'm breaking free, I'm breaking through. I've overcome all, I'm underneath. I can finally stand. I can finally breathe. More screaming ensued, something about a pair of pants this time. I can see it in your eyes. I can feel it in my mind. I don't care if you realize what you see in my eyes. Suddenly the music stopped. Everything went silent. Everything was calm. That instant was shattered as quickly as it came. From nowhere came a pressure. Kurenai, along with Kakashi, could only gape at the amount of compressed chakra down there. After a bright flash and once again another large explosion, this time big enough to shake the ground, they were one. Everything was once again silent. The nin were all apprehensive to look over the edge, not wanting to see what happened. After a quick reminder, everyone was curious. Anyo, where's the tiger? Kurenai sensei, is it okay? The Hyuga asked slowly to her teacher. Not knowing what to say, the Raven Beauty just looks at her for a second before slowly starting the trek to meet with Kakashi by Zabuza's still bleeding corpse. So, I take it he's dead. Trying to lighten the mood slightly as they arrived, the dog Nin looked down at the demon of the mist. Well, we would hope so, Kiba. If not, then he wouldn't be human, even if his title is Demon of the Mist. The bug user said as stoically as he looked. Shush, you two. Hinata, go check the two boys over there. Kakashi and I will check below the bridge. Kurenai watched the Hyuga nod and trek over to the crying bubblegum-haired Nin, who by now was over the raven-haired boy's body. Taking point, Kurenai starts walking to the edge of the bridge hesitantly, Kakashi right behind her. Noticing movement right away on the other side of the chasm, Kakashi, out of reaction from his training pulled out a kunai and was just about to throw it as Kurenai grabbed his hand, stopping him. On the other side of the chasm, the white tiger was walking up the cliff side. Sensing a possible danger, it stopped, settling its paw on a branch jutting out of the cliff face and looked over its shoulder to the bridge. Nodding in approval to what the raven beauty did, the tiger steadied itself on the branch looking over the chasm to the bridge. "It's not gonna jump again, is it, Kurenai-sensei?" Hinata asked upon seeing the tiger. She was only feet away checking the other unconscious boy. Before she could answer, that's exactly what the tiger did. It jumped. Although its leap was large, it was only a fraction of the gap. Letting out a growl, the tiger seemed to change and morph, deforming itself into something nondescript. The flesh and fur seemed to meld. Suddenly the fur changed into finer, stiffer strands, before it began to take form. Black bone-like substance began to come out of its head, out of its throat it seemed. Its ears flattened, face taking on a sleeker look. Its front paws melded into itself and seemed like the bone moved up to its back. The back claws lost all fur, leaving cracked dry talons in each spot. Its tail began to split and straighten out directly behind it like a fan. Its fur turned slick black, and seemed to shine in the light. Opening its eyes seemed to awaken it. With a loud but beautiful shriek, wings seemed to be ripped out from its back, the shriek signifying its completion. Taking a quick dive, the raven flapped once, gaining ground quickly. Kurenai and Kakashi couldn't comprehend what they just saw. A feline just turned into a bird, a very large bird. Jumping back, they both gave it room. It seemed to be coming directly towards them. Kakashi got in a defensive stance. Kurenai was just awed by the beauty. Taking some time and letting the feeling of flight control it for a second, the raven just flew over their heads, and every one of those heads whipped to watch the giant bird. Relishing in the feeling, it quickly decided to land. Taking a dive down the chasm, the raven touched down on the water, skimming its surface and cutting the water. Flapping a few times, the bird just seemed to command the winds and it soared up. Grappling the edge of the bridge, it folded its wings into itself and seemed to just stare, its purple eyes glancing over every nin on the bridge that was alive. Still deep amethyst, the eyes changed, pupil covering more of the iris, seeming to move on its own within the iris, twisting. Unlike move birds, it didn't hop when it walked, instead, it took strides, like a human. One step of this bird was equivalent of 3 steps that Kurenai took to the side, admiring its beauty. Kakashi, for his part, just stood in a defensive stance as the bird seemed to overlook him and walk by, swaying its head to take in the scenery. A few feet past the 2 older nin, the bird noticed, the boy, the one with all the needles, was starting to awake. Finally the Uchiha awakens from his slumber. Nay. I feel like a pincushion. What happened? Opening his eyes, the Uchiha noted everything seemed clearer. The pink-haired girl was right beside him, crying. Looking down at him, she smiled, a true smile of utter joy. Sasuke-kun. She carefully started taking out some more pins. The Hinata did not, since they didn't stab into any major part of his body. Kurenai took a second to glance over to the downed Uchiha and then at Kakashi, nodding slightly to him. Kakashi nodded back and relaxed, taking strides over to the Uchiha and sliding his headband down, a look of relief on his face. Kakashi-sensei. What happened? I feel unusual. I was toyed with, wasn't I? Clenching his fist, the Uchiha scowled. I'm not sure if that's what happened. You were immobilized. Apparently Haku didn't want to kill you. You'll be fine with rest, Sasuke. Seeing him nod, Kakashi moves his focus back on the bird who was watching them. Kurenai slowly took a step closer to the bird, after getting its attention. Reaching a hand out, she shakily tried to touch the raven, as if not wanting to offend it. The raven took a stride towards her and everyone stiffened. Kurenai more than anyone else was stone still. The raven just slid its head into its wing and plucked a feather, setting the tip between her fingers. Kurenai gasped. It was too soft, for a raven anyway. It was as if the raven was just born, its coat never stained or dirty. Slowly she stepped back and watched the raven with interest. It started to caw gently, as if grunting. The legs were the first to change this time. They seemed to expand as feathers dropped from it and clung together. The new appendages seemed to flow in the wind, like silk. Its tail feathers just receded, along with its beak. The wings seemed to shrink but didn't leave. The mass from the wings seemed to writhe and formed what appeared to be arms as the figure seemed to kneel on the concrete. The sleek feathers began to recede around its body, leaving taut skin underneath. The feathers on its chest and back moved seemingly to a cloth attached to its back, between its wings. The black faded out as color seeped in. The cloth attached to its back was almost a cape, crimson red in color on the inside, black on the outside. The legs turned out to be fabric also, silver, black flames climbing the sides with red trim. Two belts seemed to fall from the figure's hips, crossing an X in the middle, scrolls adorning many clips. A bare but toned chest seemed to be shown off. 6 whisker marks adorned the figure's face, little to no fat anywhere on his body, face was no exception. His hair was a light blonde, with crimson streaks, long enough to be held in a ponytail, ending just between his shoulder blades, bangs framing his face. His hair resembles Itachi's almost. Kurenai thought before the last feature was revealed. Slowly he opened his eyes, a deep amethyst, normal, with a red ring around his pupil, that was dilating down from the transformation. Coming up from his kneeling position, his wings seemed to recede into his back at this point. His cloak closed around his frame and they noticed it was hooded, along with the clasp on his neck holding it together. It was a red swirl, delving into itself like a whirlpool. Taking a single step and reaching Kurenai, he takes the feather, and brushes a few strands of hair behind her ear, settling the feather along with them right behind her ear. She's beautiful, and I just love her eyes. Smiling he takes back his hand and notices a light blush adorning her face. What just happened? Kurenai was still comprehending what happened before she noticed her blush, thankful she was facing away from everyone but this man that appeared before her. He's way too good to be true, nice, gorgeous. I may be the ice queen but. Excuse me, thank you for saving my student. Kakashi walked over and introduced himself. I am Kakashi Hatake, known for your Sharingan, and famous for having mastered over 1,000 jutsu with that eye, creating your own Chidori, or Reikiri, the lightning blade, and S-rank assassination technique. His voice seemed to be as majestic and soft, like silk for the ears. The man nodded. I know of you. Turning to Kurenai he continues. Kurenai Yuhi, Genjutsu mistress of Konoha, known to kill without even moving, mastered your art to a letter, not even needing hand seals half the time. Impressive for a newly appointed Junin. He nodded again and bowed to them. Assuming by looks, you also have an Inuzuka, along with his partner, a Hyuga, and Aburame, on your team Kurenai. Kakashi, you seem to have one of the last Uchiha, who seemingly just activated his Sharingan. Chuckles lightly. I don't recognize the Pinkett, and if I remember correctly, the last one is from the Terumi clan I believe. Not yet having his bloodline under control I see. Kakashi stiffened. How do you know so much about us? He took a defensive stance, knowing he wouldn't last but could hopefully delay him to let the others get away in case they need to run. The man smiled, a small smile taking in the looks everyone gave. Kurenai was on guard but almost amazed. Sasuke was scowling, Hinata was stunned, Kiba was growling along with his dog, Shino the Aburame, stood there but buzzing could be heard easily. The Terumi and the Sakura were both sitting amazed at this person knowing so much. I just read up on my home is all. I hate Konoha, but if I need to fight I need to know my enemies, if I don't then it's a good conversation starter, nay. He grinned a playful grin and Kakashi faltered slightly. Why do you hate Konoha? Kiba screamed, being brash. It's a great place, the biggest shinobi village and. Kiba, be quiet, it's not time for you to talk. Kurenai chastised him as she watched the man, while being slightly more on guard. Sighing, he looks to Kiba, and both Kurenai and Kakashi fall into a full defensive stance when he takes a step towards him, but ends up using that step to fall and sit down where he once stood. Well now, that would be a long story to tell, wouldn't it? Let's just keep it simple, shall we? Konoha was once a very good village, yes. Went through all their heads. I say was because they may be top dog now, but they have laxed on their training and on their defenses. Anyone can attack right now, any village, and deal immense damage, maybe not win, but the damage will be great enough for a second wave to come and take out the village. He watched as realization dawned on the two Junin nin. Now, a few years ago, I lived there, a few, as in maybe 13 years. 14. I was the pariah, the hated one, unwanted, so one day, I left. They got their wish, I was gone from their lives, and they have peace, as they see it anyway. Little did they know, if trained right, I would be one of the best nin alive, better than your Yondaime. Kakashi was gawking now. Being his student, he just knew how strong Minato was. I left, with a reminder in place, to come back, at some time, and see OG-san before he passed. He was the only one who treated me as I should have been treated, along with a restaurant owner. Ichiraku, I believe. Kakashi started to think on who this man could be. He's about 16, maybe 17, could he be? Kakashi was taken aback, staring at the man. Maybe he figured it out already. If not, too bad. My name is Naruto. Kurenai and Kakashi gasped. Kakashi because he was Naruto's guard when he was in Anbu. Kurenai because she's heard about him from the Hokage, and has met him a few times before. Dobi, what's your full name? Sasuke said, standing with some help from Sakura. Venom seemed to lace his voice. Uchiha, arrogant as any other. At least I've met one good-natured one. Letting the venom slide away, he looked back at Kakashi. You know who I am, don't you? Slowly Kakashi started to nod, just barely. You should, I'm the son of your sensei. Kurenai gasped again. He was implying, to be. Looking over at Kurenai, he smiled. Yes, Kurenai-san. I am in fact Naruto Namikaze. Son of Minato Namikaze, Yondaime of Konohagakure. The genin were the ones to gasp this time, the Yondaime being the most famous person to come from the village, also the strongest. Naruto. I'm sorry I couldn't keep you in Konoha. Kakashi said as his defensive stance left him almost as fast as he went into it. Smiling slightly. You know, Scarecrow, if I remember correctly, you tried to shove a Chidori through my chest. Kakashi, having the decency to look ashamed, and averted his gaze from the blonde. Yay, about that, it really doesn't matter anymore, I'm over it. Just like all the scars Konoha has been kind enough to treat me with. It all just adds up to more of a reason why I hate that village, but for the old man I'm coming back, and if you don't mind, Kurenai-san, I'd like to come with you and your teams. Yay, sure, I suppose. I mean, it wouldn't hurt for you to come with us, better than being alone. Kurenai nodded and watched as Kakashi started to rouse his one unconscious student back into the living world. Shino, inspect the area around us, please. Just check it, see if there's anyone else around. Tazuna, please get to work on the bridge, we will take care of the bodies, and clean up while you do. Kurenai instructed to the two. Nodding, Tazuna started to struggle out of his stupor. Tazuna-san, if you would like, I can help you out. Everyone looked at Naruto, wondering how he could help. Well, it would make it quite a bit easier for you, might even get the bridge done sooner than expected. Naruto grinned at Tazuna. Yay, sure, if you want to help, that's fine with me. I'll just, Kage Bunshin, a small cloud of smoke covered the bridge. Before the smoke cleared, Kakashi had one thought through his mind. How many did he make? He must have a huge chakra capacity to make so many. As the smoke cleared, it revealed to have an endless amount of Naruto. There's about 300, give or take 10 either way. Tell them what to do and they will, no worries. Helpful? Nay. He grinned as he noticed everyone's eyes widen and jaws drop. What? It's not that hard for me. I mean, this isn't even the amount I use for my training, though I do regularly send them out on civilian jobs. The teacher's eyes widened even more at this. What kind of training does he do that can use more than this? Coughing and regaining her composure, Kurenai turns to her students. You three will help with this also. We need to get this over with before Gato can realize his mercenaries are all dead. Watching her team nod, she smiles, turning to Kakashi and notes as he told his team the same. Kurenai, I'll be helping Tazuna with what I can. Nodding to him, she opens her mouth to speak but was cut off by Naruto. I'm going to take a walk. Kurenai, would you like to come with? I hope to run into Gato's hideaway and I would enjoy some light company. A few years without it and I would like to have someone to chat with, only logical nay. Giving Kurenai a smile that made her heart skip a beat, he turned and started to help Kakashi clean up the bodies of Haku and Zabuza. Think it over for a few minutes. I'm going to help Scarecrow over here clean up. Getting a nod from her to signify she'd think it over. Walking over to Haku's body, Naruto picks him up, and takes him to a soft spot on the grass, setting him down with respect. Naruto gets up and walks back to the bridge. Scarecrow, I'll take Zabuza's body, you rinse off the bridge. It'll be faster than trying to do it one at a time. Nodding to him, Kakashi watches as Naruto picks up Zabuza with ease as if he was a child. Watching him go to the grass along with Haku, he takes up his job, going through some hand signs. Water bullet, spitting out 4 large balls of water, 2 hit each blood stain on the bridge. Each with enough force to spray the blood off the bridge after diluting the color, making a light pink, barely noticeable as the crimson liquid. After his job was done, he decided to watch over the genin and Naruto, until he left, that is. Sending his chakra through the ground beneath him in a swift motion, Naruto thrusts his palm toward the ground. A crater appears, as his focus chakra pushes the soft ground below it. Repeating this once more, he makes a slightly bigger hole in the ground. Using simple chakra strings, merely the basics, he lifts both bodies and set them into the craters intended as graves. Letting the strings release after the bodies gently hit the dirt, he runs through a few hand signs. Flowing mud river, shooting a condensed stream of mud from his mouth, Naruto fills up the 2 graves. Running through more hand seals intending to dry up the mud a little bit, grand fireball, slowly the mud began to harden until he stopped, right around where it seemed the other ground was. Stone spikes, 2 large spikes jutted out from the top of the graves. Wind blades, many invisible blades chopped up and carved the spikes into gravestones. Lean rectangles with their names carved in them respectively, name of rank he thought appropriate, and how they died honorably. Finally the finishing touch, nay. Undergrowth vines. Slowly grass started to grow over the dried mud, vines started to cover the gravestones, enough to make it look aged but not to obscure the text etched into the stone. Everyone seemed to gape at his actions: stone, wind, fire, and wood elemental jutsu used for just graves. How strong could he be to control all of those already? Kakashi watching in fascination along with Kurenai, Sakura, Hinata, Kiba, and the Terumi heir. Sasuke was seething inside. He couldn't stand how this Dobi could just walk in and be so much better than him. He needed that power, not this loser. Shino just seemed to be impassive to this all, but Naruto noticed a small twinkle of amazement in his eye, just barely seen behind his glasses. Well now, that's why they have those glasses. Interesting enough. Well, they don't need to be criticized more than they already are, nay. Hey, loser, show me how to do those jutsu. I need that power to become stronger, and carry out my ambition. Sasuke yelled from the bridge at Naruto. Kurenai was watching Naruto most of the time he was back, telling herself it was to keep an eye on him, but she knew better. She noticed as she watched, that his eyes seemed to lose some of their shine, and darken as Sasuke spoke. Uchiha, don't tell me what to do. Looking Sasuke right in the eyes, he must admit, he respects the Uchiha, slightly, at best. He didn't flinch away like most would. What on earth makes you think I'll even consider doing something nice for an Uchiha? The only good Uchiha that came from that clan is Itachi. Naruto bluntly states. What? You namikaze. Sasuke lunged at him, whipping out a kunai, intent described in his eyes, death. Naruto smirked. Taunting an Uchiha was quite fun. Letting the Uchiha think he's so great, Naruto just let Sasuke nick his arm, standing still, just bending his body slightly. Horrible aim for an Uchiha, especially taijutsu. Sasuke. Knock this off at once. Kakashi tried reprimanding him first. Sasuke takes another charge at him, this time intent on his chest, not his neck. Flashing in front of Naruto, his back to him, Sasuke tries to plunge the kunai into his heart. Silly boy, frontal attacks won't work on a real shinobi. Naruto grabbed his wrist, pulling his arm down and twisting it, effectively popping it out of its socket. Shoving Sasuke onto the ground, Naruto plants his foot directly onto his back, forcing all the air from his lungs. The genin watched, entranced. Everything happened in a matter of seconds, simple short seconds, seemingly worthless, and the last remaining Uchiha could have died in those few seconds. Kakashi-san, you need to train this one much better, and from the looks of the pink-haired one, her too. He's far too weak to take on Zabuza. If you had got knocked out and Kurenai-san's team wasn't there, he would have been dead long ago, along with your whole team. You're slacking, Hatake. In Anbu you were never this loose on someone's training, fix it. Naruto could have sworn he heard Kakashi say, yes. Sensei. Though he told himself he was mistaken. He sounded so much like Minato. I even called him sensei. He's right though, I need to up their training. He sighed, opting to leave his books at home during training from now on, not to say he wouldn't take them on missions though. Naruto leant over and picked up Sasuke, staring him directly in the eyes, this time though he did flinch. Grabbing the arm that he just dislocated, Naruto grinned, he was gonna love this part. Roughly pulling the arm away from Sasuke's body, he pushes the shoulder joint back into place with an audible crack, as well as an ear-piercing scream of Sasuke's throat. Sasuke. Sakura came running to him and grabbed his arm, while trying and failing to glare at Naruto. While in his mini stare down with the pink at Naruto voices his opinion. Kurenai-san. Yes, Naruto. Kurenai looked up from talking to Hinata. This was her first kill sight as it was, she's just the only one to get over the shock of the Yondaime's son first. We should go on that walk now, try to find Gato's hideout, nay. Finally looking away from Sakura, he looks up and smiles at Kurenai, getting that warm feeling to bubble up again. Yes, well, looking down at Hinata she continues, I don't think I should leave Hinata alone without me here. Kurenai lies a hand on her shoulder. That's fine Kurenai-san, I'll leave a few Kage Bunshin with her to help her out, I know how hard a first kill sighting is. They will inform me if anything happens, that and Kakashi is still here, she'll be fine trust me. Naruto walks over and holds out his hand for her. Taking his hand as a friendly gesture, she lets him pull her up. Whoa, his hands are so warm, is this how he always is? It's so comforting. Kurenai definitely notices the lack of warmth as he lets her hand go, opting to kneel beside Hinata. Hey, the first is always the worst, making sure you still feel remorse just means you're human, and you don't enjoy killing. No nin likes killing, unless they're missing nin, but that's a whole other story, nay. Smiling and softening his voice to a small whisper, he watched as Hinata giggled at his joke. A blush adorning her face at the sound of his voice. Everyone eventually has to kill, unless you're a medic nin, even so you will still see death, just let it out now alright. It will make it easier to cope with later. You'll be okay as long as you realize that when your first kill comes, it's not your fault, it was a mission and you're just carrying it out, or you're defending yourself, one or the other. Nodding to her, he can see her eyes brimmed with tears threatening to spill. Making a few Kage Bunshin, Naruto picks her up, taking her over to a tree and lets the 3 Bunshins take care of her. Treat her like a queen, you guys. Let her relax, make her relax. If she passes out, don't move, just one expel. Turning back to Hinata, he continues. I'll be taking your sensei for a while, is that okay, Hinata-chan? Hinata's blush deepens into a new shade as she nods and hugs him, muttering a thank you and to keep Kurenai safe. Naruto smiles and nods, letting the clones take care of her. Kurenai-san, let's go, we'll be back in a few hours or so. Walking back to her, he decides to make this a faster route. Would you hold on please? Kurenai nods and, along with Kakashi, usher the genin to get to work and stop watching. Sasuke walks off with a glare at Naruto. Naruto, for his part, transforms into the white tiger again right in front of Hinata, before prowling up to her and nuzzling her before dashing off to Kurenai. The whole process might only take seconds to complete, but it's an odd sensation to get used to the new body. Appearing in a white blur next to Kurenai, Sakura jumps at the speed it moved. Purple eyes watching her, bemused by her behavior. Looking up at Kurenai, Naruto just bowed and nudged her leg, egging her to get on him. Kurenai, for her part, stared at him, unsure what exactly he wanted. Getting as close to a sigh as a tiger can get, Naruto slouched more and dove under her legs, sliding her onto his back. Kurenai, again for her part, let out something very Hinata-like. Kya, a blush seemed to just appear on her face after that, and Naruto mentally grinned at this. Adorable to boot, oh yay, she's definitely a nice catch for someone. Applying chakra to his back to make sure she stayed put, he took off at a decent pace, letting her get used to the jostling. Kakashi, along with the genin, watched in minute amazement at the action that just took place. Having some different reactions for each person. Kiba exclaimed his opinion. Wahoo Akamaru. That's going to be like us when you get older, no doubt. The dog just barked up at him and wagged its tail. Shino noticed his sensei's blush and tried to analyze it. She seems happy. I'm unsure. Asuma has been annoying her lately, and Naruto just jumped in. Maybe he would be good for her. I wonder if he could turn into a bug. Actually, do I even want to know that? Continuing to ponder his own thoughts and shake his head, he gets back to work. Sasuke didn't even pay attention to, focused on brooding about his loss to Naruto. Kakashi was taking the Terumi air through the events that just happened, and you see Sharon, that's what happened this whole time, caught up to speed now. Seeing him nod, Kakashi smiles. Sharon took all of this in, wondering how he could possibly transform and have wood element jutsu. Sakura was worried about Sasuke and keeping on task while thinking about him. Tazuna, while working, was jealous of the boy a bit. Damn Gaki, he can turn into animals. Hell, he even got that hot nin girl to ride him. Literally. Geez, he must be lucky. Instructing every clone to their own job, he takes up his also. Hinata didn't know what she was feeling, jealousy of her sensei even. The gorgeous guy wanted her, at least so Hinata thought, and he obviously wasn't being shot down like Asuma was. Though she was feeling happy for her, her sensei seemed to be calmer and a bit more girlish than normal. This made the heiress giggle. Kurenai sensei. Girlish. No way. Just no way. Though she knew one simple fact that bothered her the most. She got to ride the damn white tiger. She wondered how soft Naruto's fur must on Kurenai's legs while whipping through the forest. Starting to blush, she shook her head. Not the time for fantasizing, sadly. The clones watching Hinata were smiling. Their boss seemed happy and even took over in a gentle trot, not a hunter-hungry prowl. Looking down, the Naruto against the tree watched as Hinata just leaned back into him while the other two Narutos kept her some company. He smiled softly, remembering his first sight of death, and tucked a lock of hair behind her ear, gaining a weird look from the other clones, and an intense blush from Hinata. Well, I guess it's not all bad. I got 3 of him to myself. Hinata mentally giggled, which oddly seemed perverted. Leaning back, she relaxed into the clone she was laying on, and closed her eyes, letting the sight of death drain out of her mind. 'Cause I don't wanna be like this, I've been running the streets for too long now. But the further I go, I wanna go home. Naruto seemed to sigh, seeing truth in the lyrics he couldn't get out of his head. I miss Oji-san, and Ichiraku ramen of course. He grinned a tiger-like grin. She's so light, is she even still up there? Cocking his head to the side he looked back glancingly, the sight that adorned him made him almost fall from the branches he was flying through. Kurenai was laid flat against him, he fishnet the only thing holding her in her dress. Eyes closed but obviously awake, if the snuggling into his fur was any indication. So soft. Naruto for his part almost tripped again, deciding to go down to the forest floor. What caused it this time? Why Kurenai feeling the need to get her hands into his soft fur, right behind his ear, while scratching gently. As he touched down he actually started to growl affectionately, a purr if you will. Luckily it was so soft, Kurenai didn't notice. As he slouched down, she got the idea and got off, watching in amazement as he once again transformed into the real Naruto, his eyes being feral for a few minutes afterwards. Those eyes. Kurenai bit her lip lightly. They seem primal, and protective, and hot as hell. Kurenai-san, this should be far enough, not close to town. Naruto turned back to her after looking around. Which way would you like to go? Or would you want to split up? His voice seemed to falter just slightly at the end. No, we should stay together. How about north? We came from the east, correct? And he did have boats to probably down by the river somewhere. Kurenai concluded and Naruto agreed with a nod and a smile. After walking in silence for a few minutes, Naruto decided to break it. So since we're going to be traveling together, how about we get to know one another? Likes, dislikes, normal introduction. Turning to Kurenai and gauging her reaction, he made sure not to look like he was really watching her. Well, I'm Kurenai Yuhi. Crimson Rosé. Very nice name. I like dango, since my friend always takes me out to eat it. Reading a good book once in a while, tending to my rose garden, and watching my team grow to be great shinobi. Kurenai paused to think over her dislikes, while Naruto interrupted. Naruto Namikaze. I like ramen, training, a beautiful rose, and of course animals. Kurenai didn't quite catch what he meant by that. I would like to see Oji-san soon. I like to read in my spare time, and the spars that Jiraiya can give me. He spars with a Sanin. Amazing. Okay, I take it my turn again. Naruto nods and Kurenai laughs lightly. That's a melodically gorgeous. I dislike perverts. After a point, everyone has a side to them, they just don't need to show it off all the time, or at all. How guys always hit on me, even after I obviously don't show any interest, sometimes they seem to try violently. Inwardly growling, Naruto wonders what's become of Konoha. He scowled at that shows promise. Kurenai smirked. People misjudging one another on appearances, and how Konoha is slowly decaying. As you said, the council is to blame though. Yes, I know, Danzo especially. Well, I dislike people who try to take advantage of others, defenseless or not. People shoving me off as the pariah when all I've ever done is protect them. Kurenai frowns at this, knowing exactly what he meant. The Uchiha, for their arrogance and power hungriness, and over-controlling people. My dream is to teach my team to the best of my abilities and make them great, while watching them grow strong. To finally find someone and settle into a nice relationship that is passionate and romantic. And wild at points, Kurenai giggled mentally. So, she's not taken. That's amazing. Naruto literally lets his eyes betray his surprise. Kurenai never catches this. Finally is to watch the village prosper and come to its glory again. Okay, those are very nice, my dreams are too. Suddenly he stopped and pulled Kurenai to him and behind a tree, literally pulling her off her feet, sliding a hand over her mouth to stop a squeak that may escape. Kurenai starts to struggle to get away, thinking he was going to go against what he hated, her views on him slowly starting to change. Shish. Naruto hushed her and she calmed down, closing her eyes waiting for it to come. She couldn't fend him off. While her eyes were closed, she took note of everything around her. he had her pressed against him, back to his chest. An arm around her midriff, strong and almost caring, holding tight but gentle. That's not right. His hand, she could tell, was just over her mouth, not pressing down, relaxed. Seeing her calm down, he takes his hand away from her mouth and sets it on her hip, keeping her from getting away. Very carefully, so soft it barely passes the threshold of hearing, he whispers. Kurenai, relax, guard's coming. Feeling his hand on her hip and his breath on her neck, she was about to scream. Stupid move, moving your hand. That is until she heard him speak, barely, but still heard him, she stiffened. Closing her eyes, she took in more of her surrounding. She didn't notice much except that she felt calm, too calm, she thought, in this situation. Deciding to just lean onto him, she relaxed more into his chest, saying this was to hide and not be seen by the guards. As the minutes passed, Naruto had thoughts of his own. She's toned up, explains why she's so light. She feels nice against me like this. He notes that her hair smells like wild roses, as it's pressed up against his neck and face. Her lips are soft, and have a bit of volume to them. And her hip just seems to have the perfect curve to it. Soon he finds himself blushing lightly, forgetting about the guards. I've never had this feeling before, it's not unwelcome, just, now's not the time. Steeling himself, he focuses on the mission. Kurenai's getting edgy, comfortable but edgy. She was about to get up when she heard voices. Yay! Both boats were seen floating down the river, we just got them, full of dead bodies. The first voice said, masculine. No way. Another voice stated, masculine but seemed younger. Yep. That's why we're taking the back way, catch them off guard. The first said again, a twinging sound echoing. He's playing with a kunai, or katana. Thought Naruto quickly. Stay. Naruto told Kurenai quietly, showing no room for compromise. She nodded, taking out a kunai for defensive purposes. Nodding his approval, Naruto takes to the road. They're around the bend so he won't be noticed. Taking to a normal stroll type of walk, he continued down the path a few minutes, going around the turn and coming to see a man and a boy. Apprentice, I bet. Seeing Naruto, the older one stiffened, hoping Naruto wouldn't notice as he moved his hand to grab his katana just in case. Good evening, this is the road to the boating docks, correct? Naruto asked, acting lost. Huh, well. Yay. You see. The old man fumbled over his words, lost at the chances of finding someone lost. Yay. The dock is just down the road and to the left, but you're going to have to wait, the only 2 boats are taken out right now. The younger one seemed to keep his cool better, glancing a glare at his master. Why, thank you. Naruto cheered and waved, getting back to pace and continuing his walk. That guy was weird, Seiko. The smaller one said. Yay, well, hopefully they kill him, we just want the Konoha nin's Teramu. Seiko commented, letting his release on the katana finally come. Now, Naruto jumped into the woods and followed from the side, catching up quickly. Soon he saw Kurenai and knew to take action before she did. Wondering what was taking him Kurenai's side, now that he was gone she was colder, like he kept her warm the whole time. His aura is calming, and warming, how nice. She blushed, a real red bright blush. Was he feeling me up? Or admiring my body? Shit, there they are. Naruto, what are you waiting for? Taking a stance that hid her body from view, she waited, hoping to not be seen. Suppressing her blush by focusing on them. Dashing from the forest, Naruto landed a roundhouse kick to Seiko, simultaneously grabbing his katana from the sheath and spinning 360, effectively chopping Seiko's head off, and getting the katana blocked by the boy. Well now, good thing I kept on guard, I'm not so senile, unlike him. Grinning, Teramu charged Naruto, pulling his kunai out and slicing at Naruto's neck. Naruto ducked, sliding into a leg sweep, knocking the boy off his feet into a backhand spring. After taking of his hands, he threw the kunai at Naruto, who did Anto her roundhouse kick, adding chakra to it. Catching the blade and spinning around twice, he cut the flow of chakra, sending the kunai whistling through the air, and directly through the boy's hand. Quote exclamation mark. Ga. Grabbing his hand, he notices he's missing 3 fingers. What the did you do? Chakra is great, isn't it? Wind chakra is nice, sharpening any object to a point beyond metal means. Watching as the boy hunches over his hand, Naruto dashes, slicing down with the katana, separating the boy's head from his neck. TCH, not even worth this blade, too slow. Naruto went from serious to laid back quick and dropped the katana, walking back to Kurenai. Hey Kurenai, let's go to the docks and pay a visit to them, nay. Grinning at the chance of destruction, he watches her come out of the forest. Yay, sure, let's go. Kurenai follows Naruto as he leaps from tree to tree. Taking in the sight of the docks, it was huge, at least the size of the Hokage monument. Naruto grinned more, the thought of taking on the mercenaries in there making his adrenaline pump. Kurenai noticed his grin, it seemed to her, of bloodlust, an animal after its kill, hunting its prey. She shuddered, she liked it and it scared her at the same time. Come Kurenai, we need to do some exterminating. She could sense the smile in his voice as he walked away from her. So much for not liking to kill, huh? Seems he's thrilled about it. What happened to Kurenai-san? Naruto. Grinning, she watches him stumble slightly. Ma, would you rather me say Kurenai-san? Now Naruto grinned as he turned to watch her reaction. Grin still in place, she walks up and past him. Nah, I think I rather like it without the honorific. Oh yeah, definitely like it. Naruto stops for a second. Is she messing with me? Or flirting with me? Gah, who knows? Catching up, he tells her to split up and flare her chakra if she needs him. Taking off in different directions, they have one goal set in mind: take out Gato, and give this land peace. Walking through the halls, he keeps on guard, pulsing a light chakra pulse to detect anyone. So far so good, no one's here. Sliding into the next room, he spotted 3 guards. Must be getting close now. Wind blades. Silently thinking the jutsu, he watches as they fall to the ground without a noise, other than a thud, they make, all at once. Slipping into the last room, he hears talking. No, you stupid nin, I want them dead, I don't care what you want to do. Kill them or else I kill you. A pudgy man seemed to try and take charge of a missing nin, Kiri by the looks of it. What's with all the Kiri nins? Taking out the 2 guards at the next door, Naruto motions at the nin to stay quiet. Seeing a very slight nod, he talks back to the fat man. Well, too bad, you're not giving me enough cash for this mission. If Zabuza died, then it's a suicide mission and I'm not taking it unless I get more money. End of discussion. The nin crossed her arms and seemed to smirk at the fat man. Watching a blonde boy sneak through the office to the desk. Fine. Then you're going to die. Guards. He waited a few seconds and turned to see a chest, silver pants, and a kunai, directly in front of him. They're dead, Gato. The man backed away, almost tripping over a plank of wood uprooted from the floor. Who are you? Trying to get a good distance. Naruto never moved, distance wouldn't matter. Who, me? He grins. Oh, no one. Just your worst nightmare, Gato. Naruto jumps and takes a gash into Gato's arm. Gah. Gato went to grab his arm only for the same kunai to be lodged into his shoulder, leaving it immobilized. Spittle flew from his mouth, but Gato made no sound at all. Naruto took another step, seeing as the fat man isn't going to move anywhere. Please. I'll give you whatever you want, leave me alone. Gato cried out at Naruto. Oh, really? Anything I want? Toying with the idea of getting something, Naruto plays along. Yes. Anything. Yes. Anything. Kurenai just walked through a door, only having to take out a few mercenaries. She came to the sight of Naruto playing with the idea of getting anything he wanted from Gato. Well, you see, there is this one thing I want. Naruto seemed to grin when he said this, sensing Kurenai entered the room. But I'm sure I can get it on my own. I mean, a rose always comes along, You just have to pick it at the right time, when it's at its peak in beauty. Naruto's grin grew bigger. Kurenai seemed to understand this one and blushed deep, Hinata deep. Kiri Nin just watched and was laughing in her head, holding it all back and enjoying the show. That woman is very beautiful. Is he talking about her? She smirks watching Kurenai turn red. Yep. No. I can help you get it. I'm Gato. I can help. Gato screamed, edging away from Naruto, who just took a stride to balance out the distance. Oh, I don't think so. Besides, I don't need help, and Naruto stopped, just letting the suspense sink in. I can just take whatever I want from you after I kill you anyway. Then give Wave what they need to prosper again. Gato reeled in horror at this. Naruto had enough of the fat man. In one swift motion he tossed his kunai, lodging it into the mon's skull, right between the eyes. Instant death. I suggest you go, Kiri Nin. Gato is gone, you need to help your Mizukage, correct? The Nin nodded and shunshined out, leaving with a grimace on her face. Reminder: never get on his bad side. I didn't even see him throw it. Naruto, you just saved the whole village, you know that, right? Kurenai asked, still blushing slickly. Yep, he stated, with a single smile, and went behind the desk grabbing a few documents. Here, Kurenai, take these please. Handing the documents over, she takes a look and gasps, bank statements. These. Yay. He has more in here though. He didn't trust banks much, I can tell. Naruto walked to a wall and knocked, sliding down the wall and over, repeating this over and over, finishing one wall with no results. Naruto, you're not going to find. Punching the wall, he breaks the plaster and grabs at the safe, taking it and smacking the lock a few times, then the top, rotating the lock to 0, and it popped open. Sweet. Taking out a scroll, he pulled all the contents except one and stored them away, putting the one item in his pocket for later. Taking initiative, Kurenai helps. They find 4 more chests, safes. Each into their own scrolls. Grabbing the documents back, Naruto puts them in another scroll, and helps Kurenai up. One last thing. Naruto walks to the desk and smashes it, seeing it served as its own bank also. After sealing up all the contents of the desk, he turned to Kurenai. Hey, got you a present. Naruto grins big and holds out his hand. Kurenai walks over hesitantly and puts her hand under his. Nah, turn around. He watches as she does so and presses himself up against her back again, draping a medal over her chest. Cold, was the first thought to go through her head as she jumped, and he chuckled at her. Yay, sorry, didn't have time to warm it up for ya. Naruto finally finishes the clasp and pulls her hair up, letting the chain fall under it and her scent waft up from her hair. Looking down, Kurenai was shocked. It's beautiful. She looked and saw a white gold chain, 3 jewels on one charm, a rose, with a ruby carved as the main opened rose. And emerald made up the stem and leaves, all coated in a diamond pendant, set in the middle. Covered by the elements. Diamond, keeping the ruby and emerald safe, and it's not in the way either. Naruto, it's beautiful. Thank you. She hugged him roughly and he smiled back. Of course, Kurenai, something to almost match your beauty. Naruto couldn't help laugh at her blush. Yep, definitely adorable. We need to get going, come on. I can carry you if you want. She nods lightly and he picks her up bridal style. What, no animal this time? Tiger. Raven. Being daring and carrying me without hiding yourself, huh? Naruto let out a laugh and Kurenai soon joined him as he jumped out the window and sped through the forest, set on coming to the bridge before too late. Wow, it's already so late, it's dark. How can you see so well? Well, along with turning into animals, I can partially turn, to a point. He looked down at her and his eyes were the eyes of a white tiger again. Her breath caught. Not being this close before, she reached her hand up and stroked his cheek. They're beautiful. Hey, not as much as yours, Kurenai. Seeing her blush was just getting way too fun. Looking up at the moon, Kurenai smiled. Somehow this just feels right for me right now. The moon is beautiful, and I have this romantic, sensitive, gorgeous, primal man. Has he marked me as his? She, though quizzically knowing animals, once they want one mate, they mark them and keep track of them, keeping them safe even if they aren't the other's chosen mate. Suddenly her blush came back full force. I'm blushing like Hinata. There's got to be something wrong with me. Naruto, stuck in his own thoughts, took on autopilot with his feet and they made it back in 20 minutes. Deciding it was best not to let the genin or Kakashi see anything, he dropped her off before the forest edge. She mentally pouted but nodded, thinking it was best for now also. Walking to the bridge, they noticed all the clones were there, but no one else. Naruto walked up to a clone and asked what happened. Well, they all tired themselves out and left to rest. We decided to keep working and finish this bridge up while they rest tonight. One said after laying down some concrete. Yay, the three that were with Hinata took her there and are keeping her company. Another said as he saw Kurenai get a look in her eyes. Alright guys, keep up the good work then, disperse when you're done working. We're heading back too then. A few clones smiled seeing the necklace on Kurenai and they left. While walking with Kurenai, he noticed just how cold it was out, for her anyway. She shivered a bit. Smiling, he decided to offer her his cloak. Kurenai, here, this is warmer than you'd think. He walked up behind her and strapped his cloak to her neck loosely. True to his word, the cloak seemed to melt away her cold. She noticed why it was so cold now. They were almost there, by the lake out back. Naruto, let's stay out here a bit, alright? Naruto smiled at her and nodded, walked down the dock and taking a seat. Kurenai decided to take a seat on the corner, taking off her sandals and dipping her feet in the cool water. On top of the Tazuna household, a lone figure stands, on watch for the two to return. She is happier, he noted as she seemed to laugh at something he said and playfully hit him. A bug came up and buzzed a bit. Shino smiled, seen over the collar of his coat. Yes, this is a good thing for her, she needs to get rid of the stress. Watching no longer, he dare not impede on their moment and retreats to the house, getting into his bedroom shared with the other males. What was that for? Naruto asked after she hit him. Oh, nothing. Just the fact that you gave me a beautiful necklace. She smiled at him and leaned on his shoulder. Well, you needed some kind of jewelry, he said, a smile in his voice. Shoving him again, she just laughs. Yay, sure. Wrapping an arm around her, Naruto feels her relax into his chest a bit. This does not mean you've made me yours, you know. Kurenai stated as a fact to him. Laughing, he smiles down into her hair. Of course, if it was, there wouldn't be a challenge in trying to impress you. Kurenai, do you want to go on a date when we get to Konoha? My treat, of course. Kurenai blushed and nodded to him, closing her eyes and relaxing a bit more, taking in his scent. Kurenai started to wake up and decided she was really comfortable, and didn't want to get up. Taking a deep breath and snuggling into her pillow, she noticed a few things. First, she smelled a familiar scent, along with the smell of fresh dew and foliage. Second, was the fact her pillow was really warm, and was moving a bit. Lastly, she took notice that something or someone was playing with her hair. Noticing her stiffen, Naruto pauses for a moment, before going back to running his fingers through her hair. You know, Kurenai, staying asleep so long, your team might get worried for you. Hearing this voice, Kurenai bolted upright, taking in the scenery. They were in the forest, on the edge by the water, but it seemed much warmer than it should be. She noticed the sun just started to raise, and the sky looked beautiful. The last thing that she noticed was the fact her pillow was in fact Naruto. Trying to take advantage of a sleeping woman, Naruto. Grinning, she lets him pull her back to his chest, letting her rest some more. Course not, Kurenai, you just seem peaceful, and your hair is very soft, you know, for a kunoichi that is. Smiling down at her, Naruto takes in the fact that she's eyeing her necklace with a small gleam in her eye. Yay, I'm not taking that back, it's all yours, Kurenai. Feeling the warm feeling in her chest again, Kurenai did the only thing her mind told her to do right now, which was hug Naruto close, and relax into his chest. Taken aback slightly by her sudden movement, Naruto rests a hand on her side, above her hip, and holds her. You don't seem like the kind up for cuddling like this. Kurenai takes the time to glare up at him, ruining her moment. Yay, well, this is an exception, I'm not usually a cuddly person. Hearing this, Naruto grins, I'm special then. When is everyone going to wake up? Looking at the sky, Naruto takes in the time by the sight of the sun. I'd say, maybe an hour, you can stay and rest or you can go do what you need. Kurenai nods and relaxes, setting her head into the crook of his neck, taking in his scent. I think I'm still tired. Smiling into his neck, she takes a deep breath. Laughing lightly, Naruto nods. Sure, just lay and rest then. By the way, I took us away from the docks so you won't be seen with me like this. Your shoes are on the side of the tree behind me. Seeing her nod, he relaxes, taking in the scent of her hair, and running his hand up and down her side slowly. So warm. Kurenai couldn't keep her eyes open much longer. It's so comforting, I want to just stay here and not wake up. She couldn't believe how she was thinking, but wasn't about to deny how she felt about the situation either. I can wake you up before they get up if you nod off, so don't worry too much about it. Feeling her nod just barely, he could tell she was already starting to get sleepy again. Taking the much-needed break, Kurenai relaxes and closes her eyes, letting sleep overcome her again. Naruto couldn't help but stare at her beauty while she slept, wondering just how lucky he was for this moment. Even if it wouldn't last, he was happy with this. He could tell she liked the necklace, at least a bit, and he was glad. The rose was why he saved it and gave it to her. For his part, he couldn't understand how she was so beautiful and still so dangerous. Ninja's number one advantage is deception, I guess. Chuckling lightly to himself, he smiles, feeling her breath on his neck. Even if this is only this one-time thing, she seems happy and relaxed, and I don't mind. Feeling his ears perk up, he hears the occupants in the house start to stir and takes it as his cue to wake up the rose on his chest. Being gentle, he shakes her a little. Kurenai, get up, your team is starting to awake. Waiting. With no reply, he shakes her again. Hey, come on, get up, Kurenai. Naruto-kun, you're so relaxing. Naruto-kun, where did that come from? Naruto thought to himself. Kurenai, you have to get up, unless you want your team to wonder about you being out here and not inside. At this, Kurenai started to sit up a bit. Have a good sleep there, Kurenai. Nodding, she wipes sleep from her eyes and runs her fingers through her hair, letting out a yawn. Seeing her support herself up, Naruto reaches around and grabs her shoes, handing them to her and standing up. Kurenai yawned again and slid her shoes on, answer his question, albeit a bit late. Yay, best sleep I've had in a while, even before I left my bed at home. At this, Naruto chuckled and stretched, feeling his spine, arms and neck pop and crack. Ah, I feel really refreshed also. Then again, I haven't slept on a bed for a long time. Feeling a weight on her shoulders, she notices she still has his cloak on, and just how warm it kept her. Even right by the water, she can't feel a bit of the air coming from the lake. Hey, you should take your cloak back, you've got to be cold. Grinning, Naruto shakes his head. Nah, I don't get cold very often, if at all. I should be fine, no worries, but I probably should anyway. Walking over to her, Naruto reaches up and unclasps the cloak, letting one side slip off her shoulder and swinging it around to clip onto his neck, putting the hood up to block out the sun. Shivering, Kurenai noticed just how much cold the cloak was blocking out. Smiling, she takes a step forward and embraces Naruto. Thanks for letting me rest with you, it was nice. And I think I'm going to stay right here and keep warm with you. Grinning, she looks up at him, to see he was shocked. What? It's chilly. Smiling, he wraps an arm around her, letting the cloak cover them both. Yay, well, come on. We need to get to the house, I'll let you go in the door and I'll sneak in a window on the second floor. Naruto, you can come in the door with me, there's no problem with that. Smiling softly at him, she knew what he thought. She doesn't want to be seen with someone so young by her team. Besides, we can say we went out for walk before they awoke so we didn't disturb them. Chuckling at her excuse, he smiled and walked through the forest with her. Sure, if that's what you want, Kurenai. By the way, I have a question. Grinning, Naruto thought about many things that could happen at this, but only one kept repeating over and over, her blushing a deep red. Raising an eyebrow, Kurenai turns to look at him. Oh, and what would this question be about? I don't know, maybe about something while I was waking you up. Something about you calling me Naruto-kun. Grinning, he watched her reaction change over time. First she looked confused, then it seemed to dawn on her. Her face started to turn a light pink until she remembered her dream, and she turned beet red and turned to him fully. Yes, and what about that? The blush seemed to cover her whole face now as she looked at him, stopping them in their tracks, thankfully still on the edge of the forest. Oh, nothing at all. Just wondering where it came from is all. Kurenai. Smiling, he watches her inner struggle and likes it, seeing as her face turned crimson from the conflict. Well, you're just going to have to figure that out for yourself now, won't you? Hiding her blush a bit, Kurenai slid her arm under his cloak and across his waist, raising an eyebrow from him, and started walking back to the house. Tsunami was the first to awaken, taking initiative and getting ready for the day. She did her daily routines and got dressed. Peeking through the rooms, she could tell everyone was still asleep, and she trotted downstairs to start getting breakfast ready for everyone in the house, sighing as she went, thinking of how much money this will cost them. Grabbing out a variety of foods along with plates, bowls, and cups, she set the table and heated the stove up. Seeing as she had a few dirty dishes, she let the stove heat up while she cleaned them, looking out the window, fantasizing about the country prospering again once the bring finally gets finished. Sighing contently, she nods. This is just a small sacrifice for the better, referring to the food. Hearing the stove ding, she starts to prepare the food and sets some water to boil for the rice. Finishing up the dishes, she looks out the window to see a peculiar sight that makes her smile happily. Spotting the female Jonin, Kurenai with a man, she sees Kurenai smiling and laughing with him as he holds her. Wondering how cold it must be out, she notices he's not wearing a shirt and blushes, getting a look at his stomach and chest. Well, someone's lucky, that's for sure. Thinking of the Jonin and the newcomer, Tsunami starts a special batch of food for them, seeing as they're both up bright and early, unlike the rest of them. Kurenai, I don't think anyone from the two teams are up yet. There's only one person up and they seem to be a civilian. Nodding, Kurenai pulls him a bit closer and smiles, seeing as she got to have just a little more time with him then. Naruto grins and wraps his arm tighter around her as well. Well, isn't this just great? He thought happily with a smile. With a smile on her face, Tsunami made sure everyone was still asleep and set a table in the living room for the two, with their food already done and cooling down. Yay, this will be nice for them, she thought as she walked back to the kitchen to check the food. Turning to the window, she saw how close they were and walked to the door, waiting a few seconds and opened it, to the surprise of Kurenai and Naruto. And just where have you been, Kurenai? She tried to scold the Jonin but failed as the smile came back full force on her face. Well, you see. Kurenai fumbled as Naruto slid away from her and she noticed the difference in temperature and mentally sighed. Oh, come now, don't be like that, I'm just teasing, I won't tell your team or anyone. Come now, I've made breakfast. Tsunami giggled, seeing a Jonin trip over words like that, and ushered them inside. Tsunami, this is Naruto, he helped us on the mission to protect your father, and is the one helping with the bridge also. He will be going back to Konoha with us and be staying here for the rest of the time we're here, if that's okay. Tsunami smiled and just nodded, giving a small greeting to Naruto. Kurenai just started to take a seat as Tsunami pulled her away. No, dear, you and him are eating in the living room, there's no room at the table. pausing to give a little effect she leant into Kurenai. And, to give you some more time with him. I'm a woman, I know that when you want to be with someone and you can't, just how frustrating it is, so go on. She smiled at Kurenai. Thank you Tsunami, that was very kind of you. Come on Naruto, let's go eat. Kurenai smiled and turned to him. Hold on Kurenai, I'll meet you in there alright. Smiling down he saw her nod and walk off. Tsunami-san was it. Receiving a nod he continued and started taking a scroll out of his cloak. I would like to thank you, and seeing as you're letting everyone stay here I deem it fit to give you this before I present this to everyone else. Naruto opened the scroll and let a bunch of cash flow out of the seal. It was all taken from Gato after he passed away. I'm returning almost all of it to the village. Tsunami couldn't help but be stunned. This man killed Gato and is giving them all the money. This was unreal. He just saved the village and he could keep all of it if he wanted, but he was giving it all back to the occupants of this village. The only thing that came to mind was to hug him, which she did, tightly, to the point he could barely breathe. Thank you Naruto. Kurenai, in the other room, couldn't help but smile, knowing the reason he stayed behind was to give her some of the money taken by Gato. Of course, it was nothing. If there's not enough money I can donate some also, as a helping hand. Tsunami couldn't help but stare in wonder. Geez, he's so sweet. No wonder Kurenai stakes claims. Grinning she nodded. It won't be needed, but thanks for the offer Naruto. Now go eat breakfast with Kurenai, you must be hungry. Nodding Naruto said his thanks and went to sit with Kurenai, who was patiently waiting for him to return. Sitting down next to her on the couch, she takes this chance to lean against him and he wraps an arm around her. You know, this is nice, and it looks delicious. Naruto exclaimed as he took in the dishes Tsunami set for them. Breakfast included the following: spiced rice, mixed with some fish which, by the looks of waves, seemed to be a delicacy here. A plate of teriyaki chicken, seasoned with spices from another country, rare in wave. A plate of sweet dumplings, to which Kurenai grinned at, and to top it off was a couple of small potato cakes. Kurenai smiled seeing as Tsunami went all out for them, with little money to boot. It was very appreciated. Leaning up, Naruto grabbed the plate of dumplings and set it on his lap, grabbing a wooden senbon covered with them and held it up for Kurenai. Smiling, she took a bite of it, seeing how it tastes, and was amazed at Tsunami's cooking. Seeing her face, Naruto took a whole one off the other end and munched it, savoring it. Watching Tsunami smiled coyly. Ah, such sweet moments are rare for shinobi if I remember. I hope they can finish and savor the time together before the teams wake up. Hearing the oven beeping, she goes and finishes making breakfast for everyone. These are delicious, he commented, and Kurenai nods her agreement, taking the rest off the end she already bit. Setting the senbon down to save as a treat for after breakfast, Naruto grabbed the bowls of rice and handed one to her. I don't think I could very well feed you that and not make a mess. Grinning at her as she giggled, he took his own bowl in his hands. Seeing him take a bite and start eating with gusto, albeit his manners are good for eating so fast, she takes a few bites. While this woman knows her cooking skills, maybe I can get her to make me some dishes before we leave. Noticing he finished his rice already, she looks down, seeing how much she has left. Half a bowl, he can wait. Grinning, she finishes off at her own pace as he starts to munch on his potato cake. Seeing Kurenai finishing off her rice, he grabs the chicken and sets it down in front of them, taking her bowl when she's down and setting it in his. While grabbing their chopsticks from their bowls and handing hers back. Taking a smaller piece of chicken, Kurenai nibbles at it while thinking over the last day, and looking at the blonde in front of her. In only one day, he seems to be able to do what all the men back in Konoha couldn't, which was get my attention, keep it, and get me interested. He's an interesting one, that's for sure. Maybe he will be the one. Sighs and continues a little more down. Nah, he won't wanna stay around, a one-time thing and then he'll leave, or even just use me to get back into Konoha. Oh well, keep it while it lasts, right? Taking in the sight of him trying to eat a good-sized piece of chicken in one bite, she smiles. You won't be able to eat that in one bit, Naruto. Wanna bet? He asks as he raises an eyebrow and takes her challenge. Yay. What's the wager? Grinning, she leans forward, watching him think it over for a minute. How about if you win, I have to do one thing you ask, and if I win, you have to do one thing I ask. Grinning back at her, he waves the chicken back and forth slowly. Thinking it over for a minute, Kurenai finally decided to take it. Yay, you're on. Now what to make him do? Mentally taking a thinking pose, she ponders the idea. Good. Then let's see. Watching her lean back with a smirk on her face, he inwardly grins, dislocating his jaw ever so slightly, and took the whole piece in his mouth, swallowing it whole. Now what to make her do? Wiping a little bit of the chicken seasoning from his lip with his thumb, he ponders. Quote. How is that even possible? Kurenai, for her part, was astounded. It was almost the size of his hand for Kami's sake. Damn, now I have to do what he wants. Sighing and sulking slightly, she continues to watch him. Single quote, I could do that, but it wouldn't be too fair. Well, that's nice and simple. Smiling, he's decided what he wants her to do. Well, what do you want? Kurenai said playfully as she looked up the relaxed pose she took after sighing. Impatient are we? Let's finish eating first. Grabbing some more dango, he leaves the last few pieces of chicken for her, having his fill with that one piece. Ow. Don't know how snakes do that shit. Raising an eyebrow, Kurenai finishes off the chicken and Naruto hands her a full stick of dango, both relaxed into the couch, Kurenai leaning on his shoulder while nibbling her dango. Tsunami, while finishing up her dishes and setting the table, stopped for a second. I feel like a bet was just placed in my house, and someone won. Only 2 people are up. Ooh, Kurenai, gotta watch this. Setting the last plate down hastily, she peeked around the corner watching the 2 shinobi. Finishing their dango, Kurenai relaxes more into the couch, too full to want to sit uncomfortably. Close your eyes. Naruto smiled at her. Sighing, Kurenai did so. Wonder what he's going to do. Mentally rolling her eyes, she couldn't deny she was excited a bit. Taking this chance to look at her, he notices her slender legs and couldn't help but blush just barely at that. Just like the rest of her, gorgeous, fits perfectly. Leaning over her, Naruto rests a hand on the couch, on the other side of Kurenai. What's he doing anyway? I mean, if he's going to do something, he might as well do it. Naruto, after leaning down, bit his lip thinking this over again, but being decided already, he went through with it. Slowly he inched towards her, before sighing. This. Naruto stopped hesitating and just kissed her, leaning his other hand down by her head. Snapping her eyes open, Kurenai sees Naruto, and feels Naruto. Wah! Not knowing what else to do, and frankly, enjoying herself, Kurenai wrapped her arms around him and deepened the kiss a little. Feeling her arms around his neck, Naruto slides one of his arms under her torso, lifting her slightly to him. Closing his eyes, he enjoys the kiss and relaxes. What was I thinking? Nothing to be hesitant about. Mentally grinning, he seems to melt into their kiss. Her lips are so soft. Kurenai, having similar thoughts, closes her eyes. This is what he wanted. It's not so bad. Letting herself enjoy the kiss, she notes. His lips are soft. I've kissed Asuma a few times, and this is way different, this feeling. Letting her mind shut off for a bit, she melts into the kiss. Seeing Naruto lean in, Tsunami got curious, wondering what exactly was going on. That is until he kisses Kurenai, which she could tell surprised the woman to no end. Blushing at watching the 2, Tsunami stared as the 2 embraced each other, and both seemed to melt together in that kiss. Seeing as she intruded long enough, according to her blush, Tsunami decided to leave the 2 alone, and turn off the stove before going to wake her son and father for breakfast. Kurenai felt, simply, like she was in total bliss for a moment. Feeling Naruto pull away gently, she pulled him back for a few more seconds, before she needed to breathe, and promptly, though hesitantly, let go. Sliding back down to the couch, she noticed Naruto was still leaning over her, eyes glazed slightly. Well, I probably look the same, she noted. Whoa, Kurenai said, finally able to speak. Nodding with her, Naruto agreed and stayed above her for a few seconds until he heard movement upstairs. To which he grinned and kisses Kurenai on the cheek before taking his seat and watching her reaction. Kurenai couldn't stop smiling. She felt happy and stress-free, and she wasn't even blushing from the contact just then. Sitting up, she watched as Naruto picked up the dishes and cleaned up, taking them into the kitchen and washing them quickly. Following after him, she sees him finishing up the dishes, and decides to wrap her arms around his midriff, and snuggle into his back, after unfastening the clip for the cloak, letting it fall. Taking in his scent for a few minutes, she sighs, hearing footsteps coming down the stairs. Deciding she was too comfy, she just snuggled into his back more. Smiling to himself, Naruto slows down and rewashes the dishes he rushed through, making sure they're actually clean. Liking the feel of Kurenai cuddled up to him and resting her head on his shoulder, he tries to take as long as possible to keep her there. Woo-ah, wah, wah. What do we have here? Tazuna states, walking into the room and sees the two together. Inari, hearing how Naruto gave them a lot of money and killed Gato, came running up and hugged his leg tight. Thank you. You must be the closest thing to a hero. Tsunami walked in behind her son and watches the confrontation as her father eats and Inari joins him. Drying his hands, Naruto turns around in Kurenai's grasp and wraps an arm around her. Tsunami-san, you should eat too, you know. Tsunami turned to him. I didn't make anything for me, trying to save what we do have for later in case we need it. Naruto smiled at her and made a clone to prepare her some food, and himself ushering her to sit down next to Tazuna, all the while holding onto Kurenai. After some time, some fussing, and 2 clones later, Tsunami finally has a dish to eat for herself, composed of a few different foods. Dango, some beef spiced, and covered in rice, which was cooked in a thin layer of grease from the chicken. A small plate of sushi, along with a sauce Naruto homemade. Mouth starting to water, Tsunami turns to Naruto. This looks amazing. Kurenai couldn't help but mentally nod seeing the food sitting there, before turning back to Naruto and snuggling into him. Lifting a pair of chopsticks, she picks up a piece of beef to taste it, leaving the room silent as they all watched. Chewing a few times, her eyes turned to Starts and she took a few more pieces, glutton for the food he made, enviously of Kurenai. Saving the beef for later, she tries a piece of sushi, gaining close to the same reaction after dipping it in the sauce. Grinning while he watched, Naruto barely controlled his laughter at her expressions. Oh yay, I've lived alone for a while, I know how to cook. Finishing off the sushi, Tsunami returns to the beef and rice with gusto, finishing before even her father finished his food. Lastly, taking the dango between the sticks, she nibbles the edge, eyes turning into hearts this time and munching happily on the dango, eyes closed with a content sigh after swallowing the first piece. With a few pieces left, she enjoys them slowly and sighs contently when done. I take it you liked it, Tsunami. Exactly how would you rate the food he prepared? Kurenai asked curiously after seeing her expressions. Looking up from her food, Tsunami gives a mock glare at Kurenai, before continuing to munch on her dango. Well, Tsunami, how is it? Kurenai, now on edge, slightly pulled towards Tsunami off of Naruto's chest. Munching slowly, she grins as she finishes the last piece. Damn boy, you know how to cook. Everyone looks at her odd. What? That was the best breakfast I've had since. Hell, I don't even remember. Grinning to Kurenai as her mouth drops open, Tsunami nods, proving she wasn't lying. Naruto. Yes, Rose. Blushing at the name he called her, she notices Tsunami's grin get bigger. You're making dinner. Kurenai left no room for dispute and he just slowly nodded. The teams are waking up Kurenai. Naruto offhandedly commented and watched as her face relayed a few thoughts. From being worried, to uncaring, back to worry. Finally she sighed and opted for standing next to him, letting their shoulders touch. Smiling at this, Naruto turned to see Sasuke. Along with Shino, Kiba and Kakashi were the first to awaken. Looking over at Tsunami, she seemed too content to move. As crowded as the kitchen was, he opted to taking the pots of food to the table himself. Seeing everyone get seated and eating, Tazuna spoke up. Naruto, is the bridge finished yet? Getting looks from everyone at the table, aimed at him, Naruto decided to check, dispelling a clone. Not yet. Close though, it'll be done today though, so no worries. Suddenly he froze. Kurenai felt him go stock still next to her. While no one was really paying much attention to him anymore, Kurenai watched. Slowly a faint giggling could be heard, which got Kakashi and Kiba to look at him. Then it went on for him to slightly bend over holding himself, which now got the attention of Shino, Tazuna, Hinata and Tsunami. Finally he just burst out laughing, which got everyone else to look like he was crazy and look down at their food to see if something was wrong with it. Naruto, what's wrong? Hinata asked simply, putting everyone's thoughts into words. Haha, nothing. Ha ha ha. Sighing heavily, Naruto regained himself slightly, and began looking around. What? Can't have a hysterical fit without people staring at you. Well, if you saw it, you would be laughing too. This got everyone to raise their eyebrow, even the Uchiha. Naruto, just tell us what happened please. We're all tired. Kakashi spoke, pulling out his orange book. Yay, come on Naruto, tell us. Kiba said enthusiastically, with Akamaru barking along. So what was it, Naruto? Shino asked stoically as normal. Grinning, Naruto shifted to get comfy. Sure. Well, you see. My clones were out working, nay. And I just dispelled one that was apparently holding some tools. When he dispelled, the tools fell bouncing down and almost hitting another clone, who in turn got pissed and started yelling, taking out and throwing a hammer at a clone that was behind the first one. The clone ducked only for another clone to take it, which had a bag of cement. Suffice to say, the cement dropped onto the clone, who moved just enough for the bag to fall off from him before he dispelled, down the ladder he was one, and onto another clone's foot. Naruto stopped for a minute, seeing a few people giggling. The clone seemed to toss his pickaxe in the air, which another clone saw and was running to dodge it, but ran off the bridge, into the rapids, dispelling. The axe fell onto another clone, splitting its head open and making him fall off his ladder onto some uncemented rods. A clone that was watching didn't realize he was walking and fell off the bridge, trying to grab onto the edge, and grabbed another clone, flinging him down below the other. Even Sasuke started laughing at this, along with Sakura and Kakashi, who set down his porn. One clone seemed to be daydreaming and missed all of this as the clone that was flung down threw his shovel, slamming into the clone's head, which dropped a kunai he was using. The kunai cut a rope that flew across the bridge, dropped a weight onto a clone, slid through some areas it was supporting, causing a bunch of supports to fall, and finally dropped down a large sharp piece of metal. All the while 3 clones watched the rope and didn't move, until the fact they saw the metal coming down, which cut them in half. They looked at each other and started to slide apart, dispelling from the cut. Now everyone was laughing, albeit not as hard as Naruto. Well, Kiba was. Naruto. You need to keep your clones under control, don't you think? Kurenai giggled out. Yay, maybe. So old man, when do we go and finish that bridge? Turning to Tazuna, he let the laughter fade and waited for his answer. Ha ha ha. Well kid, I think we should start soon enough, the sooner the better, right? Nodding, Naruto stretched, hearing his neck and arms crack, along with his back. Ready whenever. I'm going to warm up. Anyone wanna join me? Asking, he watched as Shino stood up along with Hinata, Sharan, and Kurenai straightened up. Grinning, Naruto took stride ahead of them. Well then, let's go. Naruto started walking out with Kurenai behind him and the other 3 coming out, talking with one another. Let's go down by the lake. I can get some training in and you all can train a bit. Getting nods from everyone present, Naruto sets off at a normal pace, just jogging through the backyard to the lake. Keeping up with him, Kurenai thinks on what he might be training on, while thinking up a few exercises for the genin. Sharon talked quietly to Hinata and Shino seemed to just watch over everyone. Naruto could feel Shino watching him, squashing the need to look back and see what he wants. Naruto leaps over to the edge of land. Well then Kurenai, take the genin if you're going to train them. Seeing her nod, she calls them all over to her, walking a bit deeper in the forest. I'll be right there, Kurenai-sensei. Shino commented to his team leader, who nodded and walked off. You want something, I'm assuming, Shino-san. Smiling politely, Naruto takes a seat by the lake and motions for him to join. Yes, I would like to talk to you about last night. Shino notices him stiffen slightly but watches as Naruto just grins. Yes, I saw. Not too much to intrude, but Naruto-san. If you're going to try and win her heart, then you need to take care of her. She's my sensei, and we're all like family on our team. Shino said seriously, watching Naruto, who took on a serious expression. Shino, please don't imply that I would hurt Kurenai. She's a good person, and if by chance I get with her, then I'm not one to mess things up. I'll take care of her, you can count on that. Watching Shino nod, he lets out a small smile. I haven't had anyone close to me like Kurenai is, not even relatively close, and I'm going to treasure it if by chance we have a relationship. If we don't, then it's fine, there's no loss and there's nothing to fuss over. Naruto swore he could see a smile on Shino's face. That's good, Naruto, I just wanted to make sure. Now what are you training with anyway? Grinning at him, Naruto stands up. You know how to water walk yet, Shino? Seeing the boy shake his head, Naruto smiles and lectures him about it. Give it a try, Shino. I suggest shallow water though. I'll be doing some training over in the middle of the lake. If you need me, just send a Kaikachu bug over. Shino smiled, seeing he didn't mind the bugs, and nodded to him while walking off to a shallower part of the lake. Naruto, after watching Shino a bit and chuckling at his misfortune, made a few hundred clones. You 200, start the new chakra exercise, the other 100 start up on mastering more jutsu, you 100, go find some animals that I haven't met yet. You 400, well then, that's all that's left. Sighing softly, Naruto smiles. Come at me with all you got. Jumping onto the water, Naruto gets into a stance that most wouldn't know. 10 clones came at a time, one cleaving a right hook over his head, and another sweep kicking his leg out. Letting the kick hit first, Naruto rolled with it, letting the roll grant him absence from the hook above his head. Landing in a crouch, he stabs forward, killing the clone that tried to kick him. Throwing his other arm out, he grabbed the clone's leg and threw it into the oncoming horde, taking out 3 more in the scuffle. Taking on the next group, 3 clones attacked, one with a clawed hand, one with a kunai, and the last went for a simple roundhouse. Spinning quickly, Naruto hit the kunai with one of his own, pushing the clone's kunai into the clawed clone, stabbing it through the wrist. Defying some laws of physics, Naruto spins the other way without slowing down, and grabs the roundhouse, following through and slamming it into the clone with the kunai. 5 down, 395 to go. Grinning, Naruto jumps towards the horde, beginning to dispel clones left and right. Kurenai, after setting her genin to work, minus Shino, went to see just what he was up to. Instead, she found a literal ocean of Naruto, seeming to puff up every few seconds in smoke. Watching carefully, she could see a single swift-moving Naruto. Assuming him to be the real one, she continued to watch, almost mesmerized by the fluid motions he was going through. Shaking her head slightly, she looks over to see Shino fumbling with the water walking. Surprised he's learning it without the team, she can't help but smile at the fact that obviously Naruto and him got along. Walking up, Kurenai gave him some pointers. Shino nodded and they both turned to hear a splash, a slight profanity, if that's slight. Exclamation mark. Got a lucky shot, huh? Grinning, Naruto grabbed at a branch that was broken from his fall, threw it into the water and charged chakra through it, making pieces fall off until it looked like a simple boken. Shooting forward, with a wooden blade, Naruto seemed to whiz by the clones and they just blinked, 6 straight in a line that were charging. Seeming to turn around, all the clones looked down and started to slide apart, before dispelling. Bitch, that's what you get. God, I'm insulting myself, what have I come to? Striking a thinking pose for a second, he grabs onto a fist aimed for his head, stabbing his boken through the clone's heart. 325 left. Smiling to himself, Naruto took off again, sword in hand. Kakashi, where did Sharon go? Sakura asked quietly, not wanting to disturb her sensei too much. Pulling his porn down ever so slightly, he looks at the spot said teammate was, and shrugs. Hell if I know, probably went with Kurenai, no big, he's safe with her also. Akamaru barked as he ran through the room, eliciting a squeak from Sakura, a grunt from Sasuke, and a giggle from Kakashi. He seems playful today, Kiba, tired of being held inside. Tsunami asks as she relaxes on the couch after that meal, deciding even she needed breaks sometimes. Yay. He loves the outdoors, I'm with him on that. I'm gonna take him for a walk, be back later. Kiba yelled as he walked out the door. Whatever you say, Kiba, Tsunami nonchalantly commented as her eyes closed and she sighed deeply. Oh come on, Tsunami, the food could not have been that good. Earning a glare to her father, Tsunami smiled and grabbed a small piece she saved. Try me, was all she said and handed him the piece of dango. Everyone seemed to come to alert at this and watched with high interest. Rolling his eyes, Tazuna bit into it, not expecting what had happened. For minutes nothing happened. Suddenly Tazuna yelled, not loud but enough to make the genin jump and Kakashi to look up from his book more than he was already. Dear Lord, this is amazing. Scarfing down the remaining dango, Tazuna soon joins his daughter's state of mind and relaxes into the chair. Damn right, Dad, that boy knows how to cook. Watch your mouth, sunshine, Tazuna reprimanded, with no force behind it, making Tsunami want to laugh. After the genin finished their exercises, they joined Shino and Kurenai in watching Naruto, who had by now removed his cloak, to which Kurenai grabbed up quickly, to the surprise of Shino as the others didn't arrive at the time. Folding it on her lap, she can slightly smell his scent wafting up. Nature-like, just like everything around them, but a sweet smell to it, that she could only explain as simply, Naruto. Everyone watched in fascination as he moved silently and fluidly between moves, dispelling clone after clone, thinning the crowd as time passed. Kurenai watched while just thinking about the past day and morning, how someone like him, a complete stranger, can just come into her life like this. She liked it, she won't lie, but it seemed a little off to her. Shrugging it off for later, she watches as he dispels the last clone and cuts Chakra off to his feet, letting him drop down into the water, making a large splash. Hinata was odd, as was Sharon, to a higher degree. Shino actually looked impressed, which was impressive in itself. Kurenai seemed to just smile, and enjoy the show he put on, slightly amazed at his skill level. Standing them all up, Kurenai leads them closer to the river bank. No one saw him come up and just sat, waiting. After a few minutes, Kurenai decides she's worried enough and walks out onto the water herself to look for him. Mistake 1. Once she got to the center of the lake, Naruto jumped up, tackling her into the water and letting their bodies fall together deep under the surface. Grinning as she opened her eyes, Naruto took this moment to add wind chakra around them, letting the water be pushed away and a bubble of air forced down around them. Naruto, that wasn't funny. Kurenai turned to see Naruto giggling and glared at him. Stopping the giggles, Naruto went up and embraced her, noticing she's soaking wet, but grabs her anyway. Sighing, letting him grab onto her, Kurenai giggles slightly and leans into him. Mistake 2. Naruto let the water around them fall as he kissed her gently on the lips as the water pushed them up. Kurenai for her part latched onto him to stop from being pushed away and relaxed in his kiss. Last mistake. Naruto let them float up as the water broke and let air rush to them, telling them they hit the surface. Kurenai shivered and pulled him in closer as he broke the kiss.